So good morning, everyone. I'm Jill Malcolm. I'm president of the Garden Club Federation of Massachusetts. Welcome to our annual program workshop. This morning, we have 19 experienced and entertaining speakers who will provide an overview of their programs and what they offer to garden clubs. This program is being recorded and will be available on the GCFM website soon. In addition, these and many other program providers have advertising on our website. Please be sure to visit gcfm.org for more information. Please address any questions directly to the speakers after the program. We will be forwarding their information, including their email addresses, to all of the attendees that registered. We hope you enjoy today's program. So thank you for listening to me do that little advertising. I'm still admitting a few more people. We will be, just this is for the presenters, we will be keeping very strictly to our schedule. So I will give you a heads up when you are now over officially your time and ask you to wrap it up. And we've allowed 5 minutes for each participant. All right, so we're a little bit on the earlier side, but Isabel Z, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Are you
Good
ready
morning.
to go? Hello, Isabel. Are you ready to go?
I am.
Okay, well,
I'm
take
going
it
to
away.
share
This
a
is
slide.
Isabel Z.
So good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here this morning. My name is Isabelle Z from Les Bouquets du Grillon. I have been doing floral design for 15 years, and now I love to share my passion and my knowledge. Growing up, flower had been a language of love. I remember the tender moment when my father would offer flower to my mother. He either picked them up himself from the garden, the side road, or from the field, or just bought them from the supermarket. The joy of my mother while arranging them was the same. I'm French. I grew up in Africa and traveled with my husband quite a bit. But it is in Singapore that I developed that taste of creating with flowers. Everywhere you go, some artist has created masterpiece with a profusion of flower the island offer. That is where I took my first classes just for fun. We moved back to the US, and with more time in my hand, I decided to create my own business. In order to be prepared, I went to France to learn from a renowned floral designer, Jean-Louis Anxouane. Between those different styles, I developed my own, of course. And I get excited to try new technique. And here is some of my work. While I enjoy flower arranging in a vase, I also like to play with them, make them tell a story, give them a movement, a flow. Foliage is very important to me since it enhances the beauty of the flower star I had chosen. You can see here, the orchid look like they are landing on leaves. And the cluster of roses you see here with white lizanthus that look just like small roses. The job is just to soften the red of the arrangement. When I create this kind of arrangement, I feel like I am an architect. It is a structured design with line and direction. Every season is my favorite in terms of flower, but fall is very magic. The colors are so rich and beautiful. We have so many reasons to want to decorate our houses. Simple hand-tied bouquet like this are a win. A typical French bouquet you grab at the florist to offer to a friend. You can create display with autumn accessories such as pumpkin and succulent. Foliage and greenery are so important. They add so much to the design. They are considered to be neutral because they bring out the flower. You can shape them and create fun design like ribbons. I participated at the Art and Bloom at the MFA many years in a row with my garden club, the Sudbury Garden Club. And it is always a fun event to work on. And here are some examples of our interpretation, the last one being the last year. I offer two types of design, a demonstration and a hands-on. Demonstration. I usually pre-arrange one arrangement so people can see what we are going to work on, and then I demonstrate how to create. This helps to visualize how to get to the end product. Of course, while I demonstrating, I give tips on how to prep flowers so they last longer, and I explain some techniques. We are all aware of the environment and why using Oasis is fun and allow you to create amazing design. I also give ideas on how to stay away from it. Like everything, it is practice and mostly enjoying doing it. A hands-on is a demonstration and then working on their own. I stay around to answer any question or guidance. I provide flowers, containers, and Oasis if needed. Everyone go back home with their own creation. Please go to my website to check on my work. You will find more information and how to contact me, www.bouquetdugrillon.com. And thank you for listening to me. And
Yeah, thank you, Isabel. Our next speaker is Rebecca Warner.
So I'm Rebecca Warner. I'd like to talk to your garden club about ecological gardening. I know that lots of garden club members are looking for ways to put their environmental principles into practice in their gardens. Members tell me that they're planting for pollinators and growing more native plants. My 3 talks are about adjusting our approach so we can cooperate with natural processes and still have pretty gardens. My first talk is about some nitty-gritty steps you can take to make your garden more earth-friendly. I talk about really easy composting and making mulch from free materials you'll find close to home. I explain how you can pot up your container plants without using peat-based potting mix. That's because it turns out that harvesting peat is a major contributor to climate change. Coconut fiber is a solution for beautiful containers. And I toot the horn for no-till gardening. That's a technique that leaves the carbon in the ground and lets you skip the sore back when you're planting your annuals and vegetables. My second talk is about making gardens hospitable to native insects by growing more native plants. We know from Doug Tallamy and others that we need those native insects at the base of the food web if we're going to support biodiversity and a thriving garden ecosystem. I explain how you can promote a balance of the right insects for your yard. And I tell some truths about choosing the right native plants. I'm sure you've noticed that not every native plant grows effortlessly in every Massachusetts location. And I provide some ways you can tweak your gardening routine to make a home for pollinators and beneficial insects. My third talk tells how your lawn can reduce pollution and energy use, conserve water, and prevent stormwater runoff, all that by shrinking. I give some smart, attractive alternatives for part of that lawn. It's liberating to dig up some of that grass and replace it with more of the plants that you love. If you'd like to know more about my approach, please have a look at my book, The Sustainable Enough Garden. It's available on Amazon. Thank you, and see you next year.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.
So let's do paint night. I'm with a Spade and Trowel Garden Club, and we've done this several times as an activity. It's fun, it's economical, and it's good for all abilities, and everyone takes something home. So no matter what the ability is, and of course you always have people who say they can't do this or that, but when you give them a paintbrush and a model to follow, they have a great time, and they love their paintings when they take them home. We use acrylics They're easy, they're layerable, which I believe is a word, and washable, luckily. If you don't like what you're doing, you just paint over it, right? So that's the beauty of acrylics. So if I were to come to your club, you could choose a theme, a painting or picture or drawing to copy. Or if you just say you'd like to do a landscape, gardens, flowers, or whimsical, I could choose a painting to copy, share it with you, and decide on which item we would walk through to do paint night. It's economical because Spade and Trowel purchased all these things to do our own activities. So I have all the little individual easels, a zillion paintbrushes, and some paints. And so they're very cost effective to do these over and over again. So your club would buy canvases, which I have a little sample here of, there's like 10 for $10.98. You can go to Michael's, and depending on the size of your canvas, we went with 11 by 14, so they were larger, but you can get larger still or smaller or just small flat canvases. It's up to you. How would you like to do your painting and the size of it? And then the only other thing we do is we use paper plates to put our little dabs of paint on to work from. You can see here in the photo that we have the easels up, and we use plastic cups just for water, changing colors, and paper towels. So really quite cost effective. And the way we usually do this is I have an easel up front and I walk everyone through painting so that, of course, everyone individualizes their own, the way they approach their painting. So a little bit about me. I usually have participated in Art and Bloom. Here's a few of my Art and Bloom pieces here. I was trained in the fine arts. I never pursued it as a career, but I can do drawing, painting, and ceramics. And you should give it a try. There might be an undiscovered artist in your club. We have a lot of fun with this. I was thinking of Paul Gauguin, who only went into painting after an entire career as a stockbroker. Of course, we all can't chuck it all and go to the Polynesia like Paul Gauguin did, but we can paint it. So you can call or text me, here's my phone number, or email me with natureartwithlisa@gmail.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Well, thank you. My name is Ed Burr. I'm with Bay Road Botanical, and we specialize in native edible and medicinal plant species. And we are offering 3 different programs as well as something a little unique. The first program is called Get Off My Lawn. Have you ever wondered why dandelions don't grow in the woods? Well, I did. And what I found out actually changed my life. Learn why weeds grow where they grow and why they keep coming back every year. Learn how knowing this information can help you grow what you want to grow in your yard. And lastly, learn some of the reasons or some of the uses for these weeds that we've done traditionally and untraditionally throughout the years. Second program is called Edible Forest Gardening for Urban Landscapes. Incorporating edible plants into our landscapes has become very popular over the last couple of years. Edible forest gardening is a large-scale gardening technique. Learning those techniques and reducing them a little bit, we can incorporate them into urban and suburban landscapes to be able to create long-term sustainable gardens for ourselves and our families. And this program shows you how to do that. The third program that we're offering is plant communication. Science has finally caught up and realized that not only are plants sentient, but they also communicate. Learn how plants communicate with each other, learn how plants communicate with their environment, and learn how plants communicate with us. This is an exciting topic and a lot of fun. For something different, I also offer a walk with Ed at your place or mine, through the woods, your garden, or a local park. I'll show you the local weeds and trees that are growing in your area and how they work together and their uses both economically, edibly, and as well as medicinally. I can be reached both through email at ed@bayroadorganic.com. It's ed@bayroadorganic.com, or on my cell phone at 617-216-4183. Again, it's 216-4183. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ed. Speaker we have on the list is Karen Hawkinson.
Yeah, and that's the Massachusetts Master Gardeners Association.
Thanks.
So is Karen or someone from Massachusetts Master Gardeners?
Yep, I'm here. So, as I've just said, I'm Karen Hawkinson. I'm the manager of the Speaker Bureau with the Massachusetts Master Gardener Association. And we supply speakers to your events as part of our mission to share horticultural best practices with the public. Thanks for this opportunity. I'd like to give you 5 reasons that you might consider booking your lectures with us. So the first reason is our experience. We've been providing speakers for over 20 years, and we give approximately 120 lectures and demonstrations every year. But I think the most important reason is our speakers. All of our speakers are certified master gardeners. They have years of experience. They've been doing hands-on gardening for years. Many have advanced horticultural degrees, and many teach in our gardening boot camp and gardening know-how programs. And I just want to mention, I'm not actually a speaker. I just manage the program, but I'm in awe of our speakers. The third reason is our wide range of topics. We offer over 40 topics in several different categories. We range from basic gardening techniques to edibles to growing specific plant types and then gardening issues and opportunities. We're always adding new topics, often at the request of people like you. And I just wanted to mention that right now we're in the midst of a new training class for speakers, helping them develop new presentations. And in a few months, some new presentations are going to be available from us. Several of them focus on water smart gardening, native plants, and inviting pollinators into your yard. So when these are ready, we'll put them on our website, and we'll also advertise them in our newsletter that many of you receive, The Dirt. The fourth reason is that we're cost effective. We're a nonprofit, so we appreciate your need to manage costs. And finally, the last reason is that we offer an easy way to book a lecture. Our contracts include a 1-hour lecture with time for question and answers. We do in-person and Zoom. And in order to book a lecture, all you have to do is get in touch with me, and I handle all the checking with the speaker for availability and contracting. And if your event is open to the public, we will advertise in The Dirt, our newsletter, and on our website. So thanks so much for this opportunity to let you know about our program. And just contact me at speakers@massmastergardeners.org. So thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Sounds interesting. We'll see the new ones this spring.
So, hi, Mary Beth Hayes. I've been doing the speakers tour for a couple of years. I love doing them. I don't like driving places, but I love once I get there doing the programs. So I have a few programs that I offer, and I'll briefly describe them, and then you can decide if you want to contact me and learn more. This is my dog Caroline, who sadly is no longer with us, but I can't quite give her up. So she's still in my pictures for a while. So one of the programs I offer is creating your own cutting garden, which is a pretty marvelous thing to have. And I talk about how to set them up, what are easy things to grow, soil preparation, siting considerations, making it easy to maintain, which is kind of the key thing. But if you do set up your nice little cutting garden, you can see I have a bucket of spring flowers, and the lower one shows a bucket of fall flowers. And if you set it up right, you can really enjoy beautiful, beautiful flowers pretty much all season long. So talk about that. There's a lot of concern with using Floral Oasis these days because it's a single-use petroleum-based product. And some some organizations are banning using floral foam. So it's actually quite a marvelous material, but it does have environmental downsides. So I talk about old and new alternative mechanics. So the picture, who knows who's that lady in the left hand? If you know who that lady is, write it in the chat box. But she's using a vase filled with chicken wire, which is a great kind of mechanic for holding things in place. And the picture on the lower right is two ladies, I think it's from the Arlington Garden Club. And we used an Oshun choir pouch to make this arrangement. And their sweaters matched exactly. So I kind of love that. So I include that photo. Although there are some new green alternatives, I honestly think some aren't all that green. And we talk about kind of environmental impacts of different products. But I think it's important to look at all sides of these issues. One of my most popular programs is Embellish Pumpkins, where we use these adorable mini pumpkins and we use flowers that dry nicely. And you don't cut into the pumpkins, so they last a very long time. You can see ladies having fun, sitting around making their pumpkins. I offer whirlwind tour of begonias, which covers as houseplants, as garden plants, how to take care of them, how not to kill them, how not to worry if you do kill them, what are good sources, all kinds of topics. It is a wide-ranging topic, and I hope that something about it inspires people to start growing some begonias. I have begonias flowering right now, cane begonias and Riger begonias. And what's flowering in the house right now? Not so much. So one of my other hands-on programs is wreaths, head crowns, and garlands, which are all the same mechanic, and decide how you want to wear it or put it somewhere or hang it or on your table. It's a little difficult to squeeze in 1 hour. It's possible. We could do a demi wreath. If you wanted to do the full wreath, that really kind of takes a longer time. But it is something that I've done a lot. It's great in the holidays, whether springtime wreath or fall wreath or Christmas wreath or anything. Okay, I think I have 2 more minutes. I have 2 newish programs. I just started doing them last year. One is bud vases. The other one is May Day posies. So May Day posies, I think, is an English or British tradition. You make little cute bouquets, small, and secretly leave them on the doorstep of your neighbors and your friends. So I think that is the sweetest thing. I'd like to promote it more widely. And what's kind of nice about either of these programs, you have a fairly relatively low supply cost. Flowers are super expensive now. This is a way to have a hands-on program. All your members can practice and learn design principles on a small scale, and you're not breaking the budget to be able to do that. And can easily get these done in an hour. So they're kind of fun and doable. My really new ones, I'm just doing this year. One is about Constance Spry, who was a lady in the picture with the chicken wire mechanic, who was kind of the Martha Stewart of her day in England in the 1930s, 40s, 50s. She was a creative, innovative floral designer, and so much of what she did was totally groundbreaking, made fun of at the time, but endures to this day. Using your own homegrown, using foraged materials, go big or go home. She made very large, kind of beautiful, erratic arrangements. So we talk about her, and I do 2 demos that are Constance Spry-ish floral arrangements. And the last one is, I think it's the last one. It's about tulips, because I hope I can go over a little teeny tiny bit because you're behind anyways. So the tulips can be very aggravating for arranging with. They keep growing, they twist, they turn, they flop, they do all these different things. But I've learned a lot about different ways to grow them and how to harvest them so you can keep them for weeks, actually. How to kind of bring them back to life. How to have the longest vase life with them. So I talk about all these aspects of tulips that I have learned and I feel like I want to pass on. And then we will do demo of tulips in different arrangements. So those are my new programs. And again, the info is on the speakers gallery on GCFM. If you have questions or you have an idea and you have your own idea what you'd like, can I do this for you? I totally will be happy to talk about that and adapt something for your club. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, Mary. Are any of your programs available on Zoom? A lot of them are hands-on, but
So I can Zoom any of them, even hands-on. I've done hands-on where we distribute all the material the day before. And then
okay.
we kind of do it on Zoom.
Lisa, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be able to just give you a short synopsis of what I do. I'm a floral designer, and I think many of you have invited me in the past. I've been giving lectures since 2014. So my emphasis is floral design, floral art, and I basically show in person 3 designs. Usually clubs love to have me for 3 designs using techniques that I have learned pretty much all over the world. So it's floral art techniques that I've learned in Germany, Belgium, and I've also been in Thailand and Japan. I specifically do European style design. So I create structures to hold your flowers. I sort of call it designing beyond the vase. So I like to create structures that will hold your flowers, and there'll be a very interesting way of presenting your flowers in designing. I have a website. It's if you Google my name, Lisa Oberholzer G, OBERHOLZER-GE, you'll see my website, and I think there you will see my design style and more information about my lectures and testimonials. I would like to also say that since COVID, I've also had the opportunity to do Zoom journeys. So this is what I call the floral journey, where I would spend half an hour with a PowerPoint showing you techniques that I specifically learned in these countries, Germany, Belgium, Thailand, Japan. And then the second part, I would actually do a live demonstration using that technique from that country. So there's testimonials about that as well. And a lot of clubs have decided, whether it's wintertime or they still don't feel comfortable meeting in person, that's an alternative to do the floral Zoom journey with me. So again, it's basically having fun with flowers, learning different techniques that will display your flowers using natural elements, or even mixed media, paper, using tubes to hold your flowers. And I usually do it per season. So someone says, Lisa, I want to have you in November. So we would try to think about fall colors and whether it's transitioning to the holiday season, December. If you're inviting me in the spring, it would be 3 designs using spring flowers. So it's sort of not a theme per se, but it's more seasonal. So it depends when you invite me. If someone says, I want to do more, like holiday-ish, then I could do that as well. So yeah, so again, there's a lot of information on my website, Lisa Oberholzer G, and testimonials, and there's a contact sheet there. So if you're interested in getting more information about what I do, please send me an email, and then we could connect and see what I could do for your club. Okay, I think that's it on my end.
Thank you, Lisa.
Good morning. Good morning. We're finally here. I'm Mike, and this is Angelina. We are co-owners of Rose Solutions, which is a landscape consulting company that specializes in roses. We do lectures, lots and lots and lots of lectures. And we used to say we would go almost anywhere to do lectures, but with the advent of Zoom, we've been everywhere throughout the United States and Canada. We also include workshops and seminars, which are longer programs where we do deep dives into rose horticulture.
We're also authors of 2 books, Roses for New England, A Guide to Sustainable Rose Gardening, and Rose Gardening Season by Season, a journal for passionate gardeners. We publish a quarterly e-newsletter called the Northeast Rose Gardener, which we offer absolutely free.
Okay, we're also garden writers, and we've been published in numerous magazines. We're both American Rose Society Master Rosarians, and I'm an ARS horticultural judge. So that's who we are. Let's talk about what we do. 6 Simple Steps to Successful Rose Gardening is our most popular program. Okay, where we will show you how to grow great roses in your home gardens in 6 easy to follow steps. And we also include lots of anecdotes and tips from our 25 years of rose gardening experience.
Another one of our programs is Roses for New England, which follows our book. And that's the first book written for New England rose gardeners by New England rose gardeners. We talk about the 6 steps. We tell you how to plant, prune, and winter protect your roses. And we also suggest rose varieties that do well in New England.
Now, this is a program that we developed in concert with David Austin Roses in Albrighton, England. English roses have been popular in the United States for the last 40 years. And we met David at the Newport Flowers Show. And in 2019, we had the great good fortune to spend an entire day at Austin Roses in the UK. We got a personal tour of their 6 gorgeous, absolutely stunning display gardens. But the real magic happened when we went behind the scenes and he showed us where the magic occurs. It's how they develop these roses with old-fashioned flower form and intoxicating fragrance. And it's all included in the program. And there's no program quite like this about English roses anywhere.
Selecting Sustainable Roses is a program where we will talk about recently introduced roses as well as old favorites. And they're all disease resistant, winter hardy, easy to grow, and bloom all season. We delve into the core of sustainability, explain the different grades of roses, the types of roses, and their growth habits, and the best varieties for your garden. Now, here's a program we call Virtual Garden Tour. It's an a la carte travel program, and we'll take you to 5 gardens. The first one will be David Austin's garden in England, and then we take you to a rose garden in Rome, another one in Florence, and a beautiful rose garden right outside of Paris. We end the tour in Montreal at La Roseraie, which is a rose garden at the Montreal Botanical Center, and that has 10,000 roses, and it's a day's drive from New England.
We could spend all morning talking about our programs, but we won't. We have 12 programs altogether. They're each timed for 50 minutes, and we allow time for questions and answers, and we'll stay as long as you like. All descriptions of all of these programs can be found at www.rosesolutions.net. Now, let me leave you with a couple of things to consider. First of all, if you need a speaker at the last minute, give us a call, contact us. Maybe we can help. And secondly, any of our programs will demonstrate to you how easy it is to grow great roses better than you ever thought you could. We're done.
Thank you both. That was very good. We look forward to having you at some of our meetings. Our next speaker is Christy Dustman.
Great. I'm sorry I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm actually driving to speak at a garden club. So I'm in my car right now. But really what my specialties are as a landscape designer, I've been doing this work professionally for 24 years, and I was raised by crazy gardener parents. So I've been around plants my whole life. I am a plant nut, is what I would describe myself as. And the programs that I speak on is I have a strong interest in Japanese gardens. So I speak about what's the essence of a Japanese garden and how could we bring that to our New England gardens. I talk about garden objects and how to place and think about putting non-plant items in gardens. That's actually what I'm going to speak on now. I talk on how does a landscape designer think. So, you can read books but I don't know that there's really a way to understand how a landscape designer thinks. And that's what I try to share with people so that you may have developed some of the same sensibilities and look for the same sorts of things that I look for when I'm designing. I also am a conifer nut. So I speak on conifers, my passion for them, and thinking about conifers as living sculptures. So that is a pretty unusual program. Also, conifers are well adapted for climate change. So I think more people, we should start thinking of them in a positive way rather than as the big blobs in front of your house. They kind of have a bad rap. And then I guess the last one that I want to mention, or two, is I do offer tours of my own garden in West Roxbury. So a number of garden clubs have come there. It's been on national tours as well as local tours. I do an experiential workshop where I get at the essence of thinking about plants as shapes rather than, you know, where am I going to put my rose or where am I going to put my daylily? It's a very interesting hands-on experience. So I would encourage people to think about that. It's probably something your club has never done. And then I also do pruning workshops. So I consider myself a master pruner. And so I really like doing experiential workshops outside, as well as I'm going to do a pruning workshop inside using some branches that we're going to bring in so that I can showcase, you know, how I again, how do you think about what does a person that's pruning think about, rather than just think, you know, here are the photos of what somebody else has done. What's the thought process? So I think most of the feedback that I receive is that I have a good sense of humor and that I'm able to take what might be sophisticated or complicated concepts and explain it in a way that makes sense. So that's me.
Thank you, Christy. Christy's also been a
Thank
speaker
you.
for Landscape Design Council school. So thank you again. Okay.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Tova Martin here, and I am I lecture throughout New England. I'm based in Connecticut, and I especially love talking to regional garden clubs. It's so much fun to link with other gardeners in my area. I can't tell you. I'm a best-selling author and a lecturer and a freelance writer. You might have seen my byline in several publications. I write for many, many magazines. I'm also an honorary member of the Garden Club of America, as well as the GCA has also awarded me for my work as an educator. I'm very much a hands-on gardener. And what that means is that I am out there really working dirty everywhere, working with the soil, working in my organic garden. I have gardens both outdoors and inside. Here at my garden that I call Furthermore in northwestern Connecticut. I'm in the Litchfield Hills. I have 7 acres of organic perennial, cottage, meadow, vegetable, informal gardens here in Connecticut. And this is a one-woman show. I also photograph my own lectures, so I do not put up slides from the web. These are all photos of my own garden. So my lecture, one of my favorite lectures is a very brand new lecture, and it's called In Unison, Creating Harmonious Combinations for Pollinators and You. So I have always been a flower child. That's what I've always been throughout my life. And not only does that mean that I, love flowers, but it's also great for pollinators. And I am so into talking to entomologists and other landscape designers to proudly present their understandings and new understandings, as well as my own realizations from gardening day in and day out. And I love to do it beautifully. I love to take native plants and add them to the garden and do it very beautifully. So that is the whole thrust of In Unison, this idea, this concept that pollinator-friendly gardens and eco-friendly gardens can and should be beautiful. And that's so very important. I have several lectures, but these are just my newest ones, and they really show what I'm learning about pollinators and attracting very specific pollinators to gardens, but doing it beautifully, combining colors, doing it artistically, doing it from the heart, and making a real difference, but never losing that concept of your garden can and should be beautiful through combinations of beautiful plants. So these are just a few photos. And again, these are all in my own gardens. These are all photos of plants and flowers in my own gardens. And all my lectures are this way, that I speak from my own gardens. I also have a lecture, Easiest Houseplants Ever with Style. And really what I do there is I have been growing houseplants my entire life. I'm not just somebody that just started with this last year or during the pandemic. I've been growing houseplants for decades and decades and decades. So when magazines like Martha Stewart Living or Real Simple or Better Homes and Gardens needs a writer or a consultant about houseplants, they turn to me, and you'll find many of my articles in those magazines. So, but this lecture, Easiest Houseplants Ever, and all my houseplant lectures, photographed in my own house of my own collection of mature houseplants in a realistic setting. You won't find plants up against, white, seamless white background. That's not what I'm about. About how you can garden indoors realistically, doing it with plants that combining plants into and doing it with even average houseplants, not rare houseplants, but doing it beautifully. Again, this concept that it has to be and should be beautiful. Plant combinations, vignettes that work together, being really realistic about everything that I show you. And photographing, all my photographs are professionally done, and I try to make it just really, really beautiful. So I would love to lecture to your group. I really would. My lectures are available live as live presentations. I also do Zoom formats. Some of my houseplant lectures are perfect for your winter lectures when you maybe can't get out. And they're all fun and they're all filled with information. So please keep an eye on my website. I'm always adding lectures. I really have quite a few up. These are just two of my favorite ones that I wanted to share some slides of. So I hope to see
Tova. That was
Thank you
very
so much.
helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Many thanks to Jill and to Lynn for organizing this program. Jill has been endlessly kind and patient in helping me make this presentation work in a timely way. I'm also extremely grateful to Lynn for her non-judgmental emails about my registration mistakes and her polite silence about my running the same ad year after year. The truth is that the content of these programs changes after every presentation. What I love about giving these talks is the chance to refocus each one, because I learn from what my audiences, which points and images are the most helpful. Revisiting images of my travels, my landscape designs, and my installations lets me reinterpret what I've learned since my days at the Radcliffe Institute, so I can convey now what I value about these wonderful experiences. Sharing these sights and insights with you is an enormous pleasure. Now I'll give you a few glimpses of some of the programs I especially enjoy giving. Next, please. This lecture is one of my favorites because Frank Cabot is my favorite garden designer. My sons say I got all my ideas from Frank. This is almost true. My grandfather's summer place is across the bay from Frank's estate, so I've known it all my life. Here are a couple of visits I've taken garden clubs to. These are both Landscape Design Council trips, one in 1910 and one in 2019. Maybe you can see Jill in that picture on the right. I wish it were bigger. Next, please. Next, please. This presentation follows Frank's artfully arranged route through the gardens, so we can enjoy together both the beautiful scenery and the brilliant sequencing of experiences that he so carefully organized. Viewers can also learn some design techniques that we can try at home and discover unfamiliar plants that we can grow in our own gardens. Next, please. This talk, Raised Beds and Beyond, has as a background my years of consulting with garden clubs on traffic island designs. I developed a deep respect for the valiant women who made gardens to delight their communities in impossibly difficult sites. And I also learned methods of dealing with the horrible conditions that they face. Next, please. And next. And next. And next. My audience last week liked both the practical information about making and root proofing raised beds, preparing soil mixtures, and the beautiful gardens structured by carefully placed and planted raised beds. Next, please. While some gardens delight in making beautiful gardens in their front yards to share with their neighbors, others concentrate on creating private sanctuaries. They seclude themselves from the outside world with screens of trees, shrubs, and sometimes berms planted to enclose a special space and to screen unwanted views. Next, please. This was a joyful change. Next, please. And this poor man thought that he could use those miserable little pine trees to screen the huge house that grew across the street. So we blocked it out. Next, please. The result was really pretty effective. Next, please. And I really like making berms. I learned this from Frank Cabot's berm. It's easy and it's dirt cheap. Next, please. Again, these people had to look at a school across the street We put up a berm and it was gone in 2 years. Next, please. Shade gardening. On the left, there are 2 very unsuccessful gardens, which are failing to compete with the maples. And on the right is Corliss Engel's perfect garden, which I will never forget. Next, please. Focusing on peaceful green plantings is especially appealing in difficult times. Here are some unpromising areas. This one in deep shade under maple trees. We basically dug a hole, fixed the drainage, put in recycled containers, next, please. Oh, well, that was premature, but never mind. We ended up with a good garden. Here's another garden where we had to import an enormous amount of soil because when we did the soil test, it turned out that we were planting on pure dynamited ledge. There was nothing there except good drainage. And within the first year of the pandemic, we were able to produce a really nice garden. Next, please. There's some of the understory we put in, along with a lot of trees and shrubs, and we ended up with a good sanctuary. Next,
Sally,
please.
you're coming to the end of your time.
I am.
Yep. Okay.
One more minute.
One more minute. All right. Hurry up.
Okay.
Yep.
Uses for annuals. Based partly on my experience with municipal park designs and gracious garden club informal traffic island designs, we visit various types of annual plantings, ranging from massed annuals, which create joyous bursts of color, to using them as bright spots amongst shrubs, perennials, and vegetables. Next, please. We also look, and next, thank you. Next, last, this is it. Well, can we go back to that last one? We also look at annuals as a first draft for projected perennial gardens or as a replacement for pre-existing perennial gardens ruined by invasives. So I'm going to stop there and hope that some of you will be interested in one or more of these talks. Thank you all very much. And
I appreciate it. My name is Stacey Lee. I am a florist. I just finished up 10 years of events, weddings and events. I'm a sustainable florist. I focus on all American grown flowers and locally grown flowers. I brought an example. These are some beautiful anemones from Robin Hollow Farm down in, they have a spot at Rhode Island Fresh down in Providence. Those were all, they had a bumper crop because both of their 2 sets of corms came in. So if you're looking for some anemones, they were buy one, get one, which is kind of nice. So my focus is on sourcing American grown flowers and locally grown flowers. I work with a bunch of different, mostly female farmers around Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island to source things. So my presentation is, I have 2 presentations, and one of them is on sourcing sustainable flowers. I'll give you all the information of where you can buy these things from, like the Floral Source and Fern Trust and all of the different places that I buy from to get healthier flowers, flowers grown by people that you actually know, flowers grown within 100 miles of your house, things like that. So that is one of my absolute greatest joys. And I design with the flowers in front of the crew, in front of your garden club. And we talk about sustainable mechanics that are not floral foam. It's one of the first things that I like talking about, especially with garden club folk. This is an agri-wool brick. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. It's made with basalt rock. It's not a microplastic. And the cool thing with this that garden clubs like is they could come out with a little plug. So you can actually wet this down and use it as a water mechanic, but you can actually plant right in here as a garden person, and then drop it in. And if you have a particular plant that has a root structure that's not very firm, or something that you don't want to disturb the roots, this is actually a great product to just help them along. Another one of the things that I use is the Ocean pouch. I don't know if any of you have seen this. This is a compostable bag with some coconut husk inside. It's made by a woman named Kirsten Van Dyke. And she actually lives in Sudbury. So this is something that she came up with. You can buy directly from their website. It's New Age Floral. You can buy both of these from the website. So that's kind of my sustainable floral design demo. I've worked with a couple different garden clubs and do a couple hour presentation, make a few arrangements as per usual. The other type of program that I offer is I'm a peony farmer. So I work on multiple farms around. I've been to a bunch of different farms around the country. I've been farming peonies for about 10 years. I have had peonies. I have my grandmother's peonies in my garden. So I have 60-year-old peony plants that I have kept alive and well. So if you would like a booking or a presentation during the month of June, it is a very quick season. It's 3.5 weeks. We dry store them as well, so I can get into July with peonies that are good for like events. But if it's about peonies, my company was named Paeonia Designs, which is the genus name of the peony, because I'm a giant nerd, and they are my favorite flower. So that's kind of what I do. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, I see Mary B. Hayes. The farm that I work at, we do a weekend farm stand during the season, and it's Nishwe Peonies in Bolton, and that's NICEWICZ. And it's a really fun 5th generation family farm. It's run by a bunch of 4 brothers that are in their 60s and 70s, a farmer, Eugenia, who's in her 60s, and me. So we have a great time. It's a really fun place to be. It's a beautiful place to be. And they love having people come by during peony season. You can take a look at the fields and things like that. So that's kind of my spiel.
Well, Stacy, thank you so much. Our next speaker is Joanne Pearson. Joanne.
I'll give you a little bit of my background first, because I am a little bit different than most people here. I have been a professional photographer for over 25 years now, but prior to that, I was a landscape architect. I was registered here in the state of Massachusetts, where I practiced for 12 years. So all of my presentations, virtually all of the images have been photographed by me. And you have this, it's my dual background. So whatever I'm presenting, it's like with 2 eyes, both photographically and also my background as a landscape architect. The first presentation I'm going to start with is my garden design, a deeper dive. And again, I bring to that kind of the dual background. When I think of landscape design, it's not just the plants. Planting design is just one aspect of designing your own space. So I look at first, I go over, if you're approaching it for the first time, you want to renovate, the approach, thinking about all the things that you want in your garden, the existing site constraints, whatever they might be, things you would like to see, uses you want. I show you some pictures of kind of good and bad design, different aspects of gardens. Then I move on to sort of the inspirational part, and also the very educational part, where we look at formal design. This is Chateau Villandry, which I've only been to once, unfortunately, but it was wonderful. So we look at the aspects, the attributes of whether you're doing a formal design and informal design. So it's the constraints of each and the advantages of each. And I give a lot of photographic examples. I move on to specific aspects of your design that you should look at, because we're looking at all the elements. We're looking at the hardscape elements. And even though you're seeing this beautiful mulch path, it's a hardscape element. I talk about budget constraints, about doing each kind of design, talking about maintenance, long-term maintenance. It's huge. You can put in a gorgeous design, but how are you, the cost of installing, the cost of maintaining, are you doing the work yourself? What's going to be easy to take care of? I talk about vertical features, all the different ones you can use, whether they're man-made or whether it's conifers. Somebody else mentioned conifers. Wonderful. This is an espalier, either a pear or an apple. I'm not sure which. but they can be a sculptural element. And to think about what, especially here in the Northeast, 6 months of the year, this is not what your backyard is going to look like, or the entrance to your house, which this happens to be, not my house, unfortunately. But what are those pieces in the garden that are going to really shine also in the winter, give some life to it? We look at color and repetition, and how that functions in a garden design. And this can be within your plant materials or within man-made elements that you're using that carries your eye and you and your guests who are in your yard kind of through your yard, all those connections. My next presentation is fragrance in the garden, and this one is plant specific. But I do start off with, the fragrance in the garden, that wonderful fragrance that we get to enjoy botanically and physiologically. It's not there so we can enjoy it. It's there to protect the plants, to promote their life, to promote their survival. And there are some fascinating ways that plants are able to do this through the VOCs, the scent that they put out. I talk briefly about plant classification, botanical names, because you can make the mistake, and I am guilty of doing this. If you don't know, and I should know better, if you have an idea of what plant you want to use, and you don't know the botanical name, you only know one of the many common names for it, you can end up buying the wrong plant and be very disappointed when it starts growing. Then we look at very specifics of trees with fragrant blooms, shrubs, flowers, perennials and annuals, and herbs. And we look at maybe places you haven't thought of to have these, whether you're an urban, whether you're in a rural place, where you can really appreciate the fragrance kind of from first thing in the morning till maybe even when you're going to bed at night. And of course, bringing some of these plants, these fragrant flowers inside your house. This is actually, I'm sitting at this table right now. Then I have a Gorgeous Gardens of New England series. Currently, I have 4 in this presentation. I'll be adding a couple of more, including a Gorgeous Gardens a little bit beyond. I was in the Hudson River Valley last summer and also in northern New Jersey. I do try to get to the gardens at least twice before I put them in the presentations. This map is actually, I create one for each of the presentations. For a Zoom presentation, I send this as a PDF to my organizer from each garden club so they can disseminate them to everybody who's going to be in attendance in Zoom. Or if it's an in-person presentation, I actually make copies and hand this out to everybody there. So before I start each segment, there are usually 10 to 12 gardens in each presentation. There's a screen that comes up so you can locate on the map which garden we're looking at. And I do these presentations, they're visually gorgeous. In the middle of winter, to me, there's nothing nicer than looking at gorgeous gardens, but they're very inspirational. You might find ideas of both maybe places you want to travel to see these gardens yourself, or you're inspired by something you've seen that you might want to take some of that design and use it in your garden. I talk about in these presentations, I talk about design, I talk about the history of if they're a part of estate houses, the development, and I want to impress that we're part of the continuum of how gardens and landscape design has changed over the years. I also include this map for Bedrock Gardens is actually on their website, but it's to give you an idea of this is a very small garden. This one, Bedrock is not. You have to do a lot of walking in Bedrock, so to kind of orient you. I always find in some ways, I'm kind of surprised. There are gardens that I present that people have been to and aware of, and there are so many gardens that people are not aware of. And some of them are my secret gardens, like I consider this one, which I'm not going to divulge the location of this one to you right now. It's one of the ones that most people aren't even aware exist. And again, I have an emphasis on overall design, garden design, and plants in this presentation. And I touch on some of my photography techniques that I use. I also include some historic images so that you get a real feel for what a particular garden might have looked like 100 years ago. This is the most wonderful blue stairs at Namkeek, the design sketches for it by Fletcher Steele. This one is the Blue Garden, which I will be adding in. I got to go to it 2 times last summer. And the last presentation is creating beautiful garden photographs. although I'm a terrible iPhone photographer because I don't care about iPhone photography because I've always been a shooter with 35mm. But there are techniques I can teach people, everyone, no matter what you're using, how to take better photographs. And there are so many things that, to me, I think of them as being instinctual, but they're not. As my sister pointed out many years ago, I learned these different techniques. And now I just do them, whether it's composition, it's the time of day when I know I want to be at a place to shoot. It's moving around what I'm taking so I get that kind of nice balance or asymmetrical balance. I do talk tech talk also in this, but there's so much that you can learn from this presentation on just how to approach landscape photography, garden photography, again, no matter what you're using for a camera. And I'm hearing, okay, just got a few more.
Yeah, Joanne, you're running to the end of your time.
Oh, there I am. This is the end. My contact. I do have just sort of a housekeeping note. I welcome you to go to my website. Don't be shocked because as a photographer, I shoot for inns and resorts in the Northeast. I do their interiors, exteriors, or landscapes, all that. But I do have a section on lectures, a section on gardens. And if you go to the contact section, for some reason, some people have had problems if they click on the link that is on the contact page of my website. They click on it and it's like a dead link. I don't know why that is, nor does my web designer, but you're very safe if you just put in the 2-line, if you're sending me an email, the joanne@joannepearson.com. I get it. And please, my phone numbers are in there. And please also, if you're emailing me, include your phone number. So in the future, as we're making plans.
I'm late now, and I'm sorry.
Okay, that's it.
Sorry, Joanne.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thanks. Thanks so much to everyone who's here, and what a great collection of speakers. Everyone's amazing. I want to come to all of your talks. I have a couple of slides to share, and I'm glad to see so many familiar names and faces. I'm Michelle Frank-Schuckel. I'm a certified master gardener. I'm also a nurse, and I work in public health. And those of you who've had me out to your clubs before have heard me say I used to kind of separate the left brain, right brain of garden design and native plants that I've been doing for about 18 years now from my work in healthcare. And just before the pandemic, the two sort of came together in my head, and I realized mostly what I'm talking about and what fuels me is our wellness, our collective wellness in the garden, in society, in our own homes, in our families, with our friendships, and of course the connections that we make in our garden clubs, which are so important to us. So I have a really, I would guess, atypical collection of talks and programs. Come on, slides. There we go. For lectures, I'm kind of all over the map. I do a conversation about the well-traveled bloom, not the locally sourced flowers that Stacy so kindly talked about, which sounds amazing, and is an industry obviously increasing in the area, which is awesome. More about those flowers that come from far away and the journey they take, which is something I kind of got into looking at more closely as I worked through trying to find locally sourced flowers for Art and Bloom when I designed last year. I talk about gardening and a changing climate, what that means for us. We talk about sort of the big parts of climate change and really what we can each do to make a difference. So it's kind of an empowering idea, and some of that can start for all of us in the garden and in our floral design. I very much marry my time in the garden with my time as a healthcare practitioner, and the next talk, Mindfulness in the Aging Gardener. And certainly working in the garden and working with plants is a perfect opportunity to center ourselves and talk about our wellness and being present in what we're doing. The insecurity that the pandemic revealed around food sources for so many in Massachusetts and beyond was really the idea that spurred on the field to fork conversation, where we talk about the horticulture of the food we eat, where things come from, and again, what we can do to make a difference and how we think about our food systems. Native plants, natural selections, spinning off the name of my design business, is really about survival of the fittest, what we can do for native plants in our yards. And I've been working with native plants and design before they were hip, I suppose. It's a fun exploration of how you all can then learn to think about bringing natives into your own gardens. Winter in the yard is a great off-season conversation because the quiet season for us as gardeners is really anything but under the soil. So we'll talk about what's going on. I do and a weed ID conversation, and actually both of these are topics that actually came out of club interest, folks that asked for certain things, and I've spun those into ones that I offer to others. I know that certain clubs like to do demonstrations and workshops, that some of us coming to talk at you is not always the most exciting thing, and you need to break up your program year. So I offer a bunch of different things here, celebrating the everyday with easy centerpieces, using like grocery store or easy to obtain flowers or things you cut from your own yard, in combination with things that you found around your home to create some fun on your kitchen counter, or for a little celebration that we're happy to be able to have again now that we're coming to the end of this terrible 3 years that have been so hard for so many of us. I talk about composting and the coolest kind of recycling in a composting talk. It's a really how-to. I'll bring samples of composting at all stages, from like the food scraps to the final result, and talk about how to make your own or how to use the municipal systems that are more and more available to us in our towns. The botany of beverages is super fun. This is an exploration into all things drinks, steering mostly clear of wine and beer, but talking about other spirits, and also the use of herbs in creating simple syrups and the sort of shrub type beverage. So while I'm not a bartender, I can either provide the bases for mixers for drinks, and you can actually make this like a cocktail kind of evening, or certainly go the other way, which is a whole new realm these days, into health and talk about non-alcoholic drinks, but using herbs and other things that we know about all things horticulture. And then a couple more winter blooms. We talk about amaryllis and paper whites, and this can be a demonstration with a number of giveaways for your club, or we could do a workshop as well. I haul lots of materials and soil and plants and all sorts of things for Yankee containers for sun and shade, where we talk about using perennials in containers, in addition to herbs and veggies and other edibles. And we can do wreaths and swags, or some kind of combination of seasonal items, which of course is popular always in November and December. I'd love to hear from you to learn what you're looking for and to answer any questions you have. I do Zoom and in-person talks, or the hybrid combo. Actually doing one tonight for Natick. So if you're in the area, it's at the Natick Library. You can look that up online if you want to come see me in action if you're in the Metro West area. I know opportunity drawings are great for folks, and I can make those happen. I've got lots of experience. I'll do day or evening, happy to travel. And all my contact info is up on the screen, and I also dropped it in the chat. So if anybody has any questions, I would welcome hearing from you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Okay, so my name is Betsy Simzak, and I primarily talk about begonias and dahlias, and I've started talking about some other things. I kind of got into this garden lecture thing by my love of these two types of plants, but I'm doing some other things. I'm a National Garden Club garden consultant, a Massachusetts Master Gardener. I'm a member of the American Begonia Society. I'm an ABS judging co-chair. I taught begonia judging at the Philly Flower Show last weekend. I'm a member of a bunch of Dahlia societies, a Dahlia Society judge, and a just Nereid Society member. So my programs each consist of 45 to 60-minute interactive PowerPoint presentation, a 2-page resource handout for each attendee. That is also made available for the club to post on their website or to send to someone who couldn't make it. I do in-person lectures, and when I do, I always bring a lot of demonstration material, and everybody loves an opportunity. So when I do a dahlia lecture at this time of year, I bring tubers. A little later on in the year, I'll bring cuttings, and then in the fall, I'll bring bouquets. When I do a begonia lecture, I will bring 3 to 5 plants to give away, or to whatever your club wants to do. I have a Zoom account, and I can serve as a Zoom host. And I am willing to go to a morning or afternoon lecture. So my begonia talks, this is a begonia art Hodds, and this is begonia peltata. I enjoy growing species begonias from exotic places and hybrid begonias that you can buy at Russell's. My begonia programs are begonia for any season. This covers the 4 seasons. I talk about annual bedding begonias, and then I get into more houseplant kinds of begonias. I have a program called Fancy Leaved Begonias, but what about the flowers? And this is where we talk more specifically about begonias as houseplants. I can also talk about how to grow and show a blue ribbon begonia, what judges look for, how to enter a begonia show. That again is my begonia art Hodds. This is a species begonia from Vietnam that's very tiny and very cute.
Betsy,
and
I
these
hate
are-
to interrupt you, but you haven't got you didn't put your presentation up. I didn't realize you had one.
Oh, man, you'd think I knew how to do this.
Well, that's all right. I've had my own problems today, so I understand.
Oh, boy, oh, boy. I've got to start video.
There you go.
Now I've got to do this. This is very embarrassing. All right, so that's, those are my slides. That's about me. These are my programs, the particulars, art Hodds and begonia peltata. My 3 begonia talks, another begonia. The dahlia pictures are better than the begonias. This is called begonia buttercup, which is an African hybrid and makes these gorgeous little yellow flowers in a terrarium in the winter. Okay, so my dahlia presentations. I have a general gardening with dahlia where I cover everything you need to know about dahlias in 60 minutes, and that's really too much. So I have broken it down, and some clubs have invited me to do my dahlias in winter, what to do. You might think, what do you do about dahlias in winter? You can't grow them, but there's a lot you can do to get ready. What to do in spring, summer, and fall, how to dig, how to store, how to divide dahlias. That is my dahlia garden on October 14th, 2020. So dahlias you grow because of that. I recently started a plant propagation program. I gave it a couple of weeks ago. This is actually a wedge cutting of a dahlia, of a begonia called Wanda McNair. Some of you may know Wanda McNair was a premier begonia grower. She recently passed away, and this begonia is named after her. I talk about vegetative propagation. This is not a dahlia, nor is it a begonia, but an echeveria. But this is the mom, and this is the baby. These are the handouts that I use. I'm a very hands-on person. I will teach you how to make a better dahlia, how to grow a better begonia, how not to kill your dahlias and your begonias. A couple years ago, my garden club was interested in a program that was going to be cheap and quick, and if it was going to snow, could we do it on Zoom? And I went to the White House in 2016 and took a lot of pictures, which I didn't realize were as nice as they were, and that was a little holiday program. I did it for the Bourne Garden Club last December during their luncheon. They liked it. Those are some of the pictures, and that's it. And I'm very sorry about the screen sharing issue. My contact information can be found on the GCFM website, and there'll be an ad in the book. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Kristen Torkelson.
Hi, can you? Hi, I'm also a photographer, and I got I had a good friend who liked all my pictures who talked me into giving a garden club presentation. And that brought me in since I believe 2018. I've been a Federated Garden Club speaker. So one of my favorite shows, I'll be putting up a presentation in a minute, is taking how to take a better photo no matter what camera you're using, whether you're using, okay, the lovely cell phone, which you cannot see, or a digital SLR. So let me start my presentation. Okay, so what I have two different types of programs. The first group is good for Zoom if you would prefer. And that includes a tour of Magic Wings, which is a butterfly conservatory in Deerfield in Western Mass. And I go over how to take butterfly photographs and give people an overall tour. So for the people who aren't necessarily interested in taking photographs of the taking photographs themselves, they still have a nice respite of what's going on. I also have a tour of the Birmingham Botanical Gardens in Alabama. And then my husband is from Delaware, which is right next to Longwood Gardens in Maryland. So I've been there several times and I can give a nice history along with some slideshows. One of the favorites I have is the history of the Bridge of Flowers, where I go through and I show how they turn this old trolley bridge into a world premiere garden. So, so all of those are available via Zoom. Then my favorite and what a lot of people like are either the lecture demo of how to give a better photograph no matter what kind of camera you're using. And I'm going more over a perspective angle and the thought process behind taking your photograph. So if you know why you're taking your photograph, you'll take a little bit better image. So I go into angle, perspective, and things like that. So my programs in person for a demo usually involves a brief intro, a small slideshow just to show people some of the good pictures I take, and then I go through and show them images of all the things that you can do wrong, or how to change things up to make them better. And then I break it up at the end where I do a, it's called Name the Flower little competition, or, just exercise where I show, I don't actually do 10 anymore. I do like 5 or 6 images of flowers from the presentation. And then the club members go through the list of options on the bottom and either write it in or they write the number 1, 2, or 3 next to it. And then we go through and we grade them. And then this answer sheet is actually basically a raffle ticket. So everybody who gets them, they self-grade, everybody who gets them all right, I'll bring a selection of my photographs, either magnets or pictures or Christmas ornaments that they can select for as a grab prize. So these are some of the selections of the photographs that I take from the Bridge of Flowers. And that's in Shelburne Falls, if any, but Western Mass. My niece lives less than a quarter mile away, so it gives me nice access. So if you can't guess, I like to take up close-up pictures of flowers and their little companions. And so here is a copy of the ad that you'll be seeing on the on the Federated Garden Club website. And the website will be coming soon. Unfortunately, I had some family health emergencies, so I wasn't able to get it up before today, but I hope to have it up by the end of next week. Anybody have any questions? Oh, I wanted to mention that if you have any questions, you can talk to Poxet, Hingham, Needham, Garden Clubs of Concord. One of the options we did for the Bridge of Flowers, I do a demo in which we actually, I did a small lecture in one of their garden club gardens, who is also master gardener. And then, so I gave a thing and then we went around and took pictures. I also have a workshop available for inside where I bring a bunch of flowers that are donated by a local florist with different setups to give you to allow you to practice the tips I give during the presentation, and you go home with a tip sheet. And I do that for the tips work for either, I have ones that are general, and then I have ones that are specific for phones versus, and then the DSLRs. And that's about what I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Maria von Brinken, have you on my list next?
Hi, there.
There she is.
Took me a second to get the screen up. Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here, and thanks for hanging out this long. It's a beautiful sunny day, and you know, we're so glad it's out. The sun's out, the snow's melting, and I know we're all dreaming about spring and flowers. I'm a experienced garden designer, over 30 years, certified in a number of ways, but I'm also a very passionate gardener. And on the top of my mind right now is we have a lot of new terms that are bombarding us all the time: rewilding, natural gardens, naturalistic gardens, native plant gardens, all these to name a few, pollinator gardens. And a recent blog I wrote was all about how wild do you want to get, walking on the wild side in your gardening. So even though what I've been finding is I've been presenting my lectures on different topics, like color gardens, beautiful perennial combinations from spring through frost is one, expand your bloom with flowering trees and shrubs, creating the winter garden and beyond using the layout of landscape design. And of course, the one I'm going to showcase today is creating an ornamental wildflower pollinator meadow garden. But in all my presentations, I always have native plants anyway. And so I'm talking, when I show different slides, I now actually talk about, concepts of how you might bring in these ideas of how to create a more natural landscape. I think I've covered that. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to share the screen and showcase this one top of the mind topic. Here we go. Okay. Now you should be seeing a slide that says creating an ornamental wildflower pollinator meadow garden. Does everyone see that?
No, we see,
Okay.
Doesn't look like it's open to that PowerPoint yet.
Okay, well, let's see. I shared it, but let's try it again. How's this?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, so one of the things I should note is that all my lectures have very detailed handouts. Whether I'm presenting a Zoom lecture, which I hardly suggest that you consider me for especially months of January and February, where the weather's awful and half the clubs are traveling, consider me for a Zoom lecture then. And I do a few in-person lectures, but they're pretty close to home. They all surround the Sudbury area. But some clubs are actually, they have been booking me for those prime winter months, but also the idea of some members are gathering in a member's home and using their flat screen, smart TVs, and doing these kind of mini little meetings. So that's another thing to think about. So on to creating, let me just show you of course, I'm a certified landscape designer, and you can reach me at my website, mariavonbrinken.com. Under my lectures, you'll have a list of lectures and a lecture description handout you can download, and my email address, which is mvonbrinkenlgd@gmail.com, which is different from previous years. So, I talk about different kinds of wild places. Field meadows is one that, this is the wayside inn. We're used to it. But then, you know, we might want to think about what I call my ornamental pollinator garden. And this is a garden I designed a few years ago. And I start to show you and talk about the design concepts and plants. And of course, I'm using these plants. This is a fairly large size, but I also talk about how you can adapt this wild garden to a smaller scale. So you see it through the seasons, and this is from with advantage of the more ornamental, but still, you know, a lot of the plants from a you know, native plants. And then I talk about how to do this. I talk about layout design and the cornerstone of that, and interlocking perennial drifts. And any of you who maybe have seen Piet, oh gee, what's his last name? I was thinking about talking about Miss Piet. He designs in this way. I came to it my own way, but recently I've been Thank you. I've been looking at his stuff, and I said, oh, we do it the same way. So I teach you this, and then I talk about in sequence. Now, of course, this is not a native, so this is a non-native, but we don't have a lot going on in our neck of the woods. So we use things like some of these non-natives in the early months, but then we can go to the natives and think about what our pollinators are, which are more than, a lot of us think about pollinators as terms of butterflies, but they're also beetles and flies and bees and wasps and hummingbirds, of course. But these are things that birds eat in the spring to feed their baby birds, and it actually helps the bird population. So they're really important in that measure. You know, lupins, and of course I talk about these borders that are in bloom earlier. That is a way to have something going on in these gardens. And again, how these play out, what they look like. And I talk about color palettes, which are important in any kind of garden. Explain some of the basic complementary color ideas with adjacent colors and how they work. And continue with these plants. And again, all of this information is on your handouts, so you can refer to them anytime during the lecture, next year, next week. And so a lot of these plants are really fun and create a very dynamic design throughout the seasons. So in this lecture, as you can see, and after showing you all the plants, I go back to what I call the inspiration photos, you know, to show you what it looks like when you mix all these grasses in at different parts of the season and how it can work. So that you have, you know, you can have your dream if it's a wild garden. And again, all of these concepts can apply to a more more cultivated garden, less wild, like something like this border that you see, but yet it still has, you know, native plants in here. And, you know, have fun making your own garden. That's my attitude for everything that I show and teach. When I teach these techniques to how to use color, how to do planting layout, how to create a winter design that works in the winter, but also becomes a structure that makes your house look good and then becomes a backdrop in the rest of the months for whatever plants are in bloom at that time.
Maria, I'm sorry. Finish up.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to your club. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry. Deborah Chudd, you are our next speaker.
I am here. Hello. Hello. I'm Deborah Chudd, and this year I'm offering 3 different Zoom programs starring new perennials, the genre of plants introduced during the new perennial movement. New Perennials, a Love Story, formerly called a Pete Outolf story, is an introduction to the design principles of Pete Outolf, who was just mentioned, a founder of the New Perennial movement and the world's leading naturalistic landscape designer. Part 1 covers my 5 years of research on him. which culminated in a unique database of his plant combinations and the transformation of my garden from this to this. Part 2 describes the historical context in which Adolf emerged as a landscape designer. And Part 3 presents his design concepts, including his approach to structure and the special balance he achieves between coherence and contrast via certain rules for combining structure and color. In Not Your Mother's Garden, I take the audience on a photo tour of my own Pete Adolf style garden, and I describe the design principles underlying it. Many of the plants are unfamiliar, even to experienced and knowledgeable gardeners. These new perennials were all taken from Adolf's canon of plants, and they exhibit the qualities valued by the new perennialists. So what's new about new perennials and what can they do for you? Walk through my garden with me to find out. My Design Dilemma workshops are all about members' gardens. People submit photos of their dilemmas, from which I select those of greatest educational value to everyone, not just the submitters. I respond with a PowerPoint, excuse me, of solutions grounded in Pete Adolf's design principles, which I present at a club meeting. Here are a few highlights from previous workshops. The plants are new perennials from Adolf's canon, arranged in his style. Help! There are monsters in my bed. Referred to the dead Japanese maple on the left and the symbiotic pair next to it, a gnarly old hydrangea conjoined with a stunted azalea. In my solution, I dispatched the monsters and filled the bed with plants that would bloom from April through November and leave structural seed heads that would extend the season through midwinter. I populated what this submitter called her ugly side yard with an elegant tree-like shrub presiding over an array of structural plants unified by repeated grasses. This traditional gardens makeover included grasses and perennials that would contribute naturalistic softness, structure and texture, movement and light play, surprise and spontaneity, and considerable winter interest. Each submitter receives a tangible takeaway, a personal PDF guide to a reimagined garden, equivalent to a multi-hour consultation. I doubt your members will have another opportunity quite like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deborah. Okay, our last speaker is Diane Edgecombe, who's waited very patiently.
Thank you very much, everyone, for those of you who are still here, including me. And it's just been inspiring to see everyone's garden club presentations. I'm a little bit different. I am a professional storyteller. I'm a performer. I come to the garden club along with my Celtic harper, Margot Chamberlain, and I have been researching stories and songs that celebrate flowering plants and the seasons for over 30 years. And this is a full-out performance. Oftentimes, garden clubs will bring it, and I'm going to share screen right now so you can just see my web page. And I'm going to also put in the chat my info. Here we go. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Is that possible? You can see my page here? Anyone?
Yep,
Yes.
you're all good. You're all good.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had to
So
remember to
Living
unmute
Myth-
myself.
Okay, it's livingmyth.com gardens. And so these are full out entertainments. You're going to see some video also where we're in a theatrical environment, but I have been storytelling for over 30 years. I perform everywhere, and the performances are indoors, and they're often events that are done as larger events at the garden club. People invite their spouses. They'll do it in combination with a library for the community. And so it's done in that way. So I have 3 performances that I tour to garden clubs. One is Fantastical Folktales of Flowers, and that's just as it sounds. The other one is Sacred Groves, which is about tree myths and songs, and I'll play you a little bit of that. And the other one is the Winter Solstice, which celebrates the flower Helleborus niger, the Christmas rose, and also the mistletoe. I have Midsummer Magic as well. But I also do a sharing tales workshop, which it can be done via Zoom or live, and all these things can be done Zoom, hybrid, or live. So I am going to just show you a little bit of video. Again, remember that although it's in a theater environment with a slide, when I do garden clubs, I tend not to do the slide background because I really want to bring you into the live performance and have your imaginations really going with it. So don't be distracted by that. So here's a little bit of, no. Here's a little bit of fantastical folk tales of flowers.
I will bring you a branch of May. The hedges and fields are
So we do songs that are related to the season and celebration of flowers. This is fantastical folk tales of flowers. And I do feel like, and I know from my own experience, that when you hear the story of a flower, it really, when you go then to work in the garden, as I'm saying here, it accompanies it like a new perfume.
how the flowers came to be, speaks about what they feel about that flower. It's like a meditation on the flower. So I sometimes think when I know the story of a flower, it kind of surrounds it like a new perfume when I'm working in the garden. And
Can't really hear you.
Oh, you can't hear it. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm not sure why that is. I do travel with a state-of-the-art sound system, so when I am there, you will definitely be able to hear me. Okay, let me show you a different slide then. I mean, excuse me, not slide, the different video, but I'm afraid they're going to have the same issue here. This is going to be Sacred Groves. And this is a song from Russia about the birch tree. And I companion that with a Yakut folktale, which speaks about the world tree and how every tree kind of symbolizes this world tree that is the axis.
pleasant. Sometimes there was incredible wind and rain. And little by little, people started drifting away.
This is an Australian Aborigine story.
Some among them were complaining. Do we really have to get up?
This is the Japanese story of the cherry tree.
Han Sakura, sacred cherry tree.
And I'm going to show you another one from the winter solstice. Again, I apologize. I saw that the sound was going to be a little bit low.
Extra strength mistletoe. You know, it's actually hard to find these days, but I discovered something new. You can get it at mistletoe.com. Right on the way to the North Pole.
So the winter solstice performance also has been a very popular celebration. Again, I have these 3 different performances that really line up with flowering plants. And although I travel with Margot Chamberlain, sometimes Tom Megan also comes as well. So I want to just show you one more time let's stop that right there. So you one more time, my webpage. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I tour around with a state-of-the-art sound system. Again, it's sometimes seen as a community event where you can invite people to your garden club, spouses, or sometimes presidential teas it's been at. And this webpage, livingmyth.com gardens, at my livingmyth.com site, has all the different shows. So thank you so much, everyone, for waiting till the end of this time to see me play my video and talk to you a little bit.
Thank you so much, Diane. And thank you all for your patience today. You know, as several people have said, sometimes technology gets away from you. We will be, as I said, sending out information on all the speakers. Please check out the website because there are advertisements, and as soon as the video from today's Zoom is ready, it will be posted on the website on the page with the program advertisers. So we'll let you know when that's available. Again, thank you all, and look forward to seeing you at more programs in the near future.